Okay, today I want to do a Bible study. I want to show you how we can learn things from what's missing in the Bible. It's kind of interesting. Here in these last days, as God shows me things in His Word, I make videos and I show you them. So this isn't me. I really believe God's teaching me the Word in these last days, and let Jesus get all the glory. So I want to start with in Genesis. Remember, I'm going to talk about what is missing in the Bible. Kind of teaches us a lot. And I want to show you in Genesis, we always have a 23rd verse. Remember, I believe in a 2023 rapture date. I believe we're getting ready to be raptured out. And I know that the Bible teaches that this will happen in 2023. I believe. And when I look at Genesis, if we look in Genesis 1, we see a 23rd verse. If we look in Genesis 2, we see a 23rd verse. First one was the 5th day. The second one was this is the first marriage. Chapter 3, we see they're separated from the Garden of Eden because they have sinned. Chapter 4, we see another 23. See, there's always a 23rd verse. Lamech says, And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, a young man to my hurt. I have slain a man makes me think of Israel and Jesus. Slain a man to my, verse 23. But I'm just showing you. Verse 23 again. Always got a verse 23 in these chapters. In verse 5, we see Enoch, who is a type of the rapture of the church. We'll read verses 22 through 24. And Enoch walked with God, and after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and he begot sons and daughters, and all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. As you see, and he died, that part is missing from Enoch. After God numbers his years, all the days of Enoch. Then it will follow, and he died, like up here in verse 20, and he died. Talking about Jared gives you all the days of Jared, and he died. All the days of Enoch, and it's missing. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. We see God tells us what happened in verse 24. But this happened in verse 23. We see that's missing. Now watch what else is missing in the next verse. Down here all the way to verse 22. There's no 23rd verse. For the first time in the Bible, chapter 6, there's no 23rd verse. Now this just happens to be the chapter that followed Enoch being raptured, who is a type of the church. So I noticed this, and then after, we always look at the next chapter and how that chapter begins. And what does it say? And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. So the Lord says to Noah, Come thou all thy house into the ark, in verse 1 of the next chapter, chapter 7. Remember, I teach that Noah is a type of the nation of Israel, those tribulation saints that come out of it. The reason why I tell you this is because Noah is a faith plus works salvation. Just like in the tribulation period, these people will have to risk their lives for the faith. Some will endure till the end, but most will be killed. The Bible tells us that it will be a third will come through. and see and live through this tribulation period. But Noah is a type because God then he makes what? A covenant with Noah and his family, and they repopulate the earth. Just like God will make a covenant with the remnant of Israel and repopulate the earth with them, along with the remnant of Gentiles who make it through the tribulation period. But we see there the first one, verse 23, that's missing. Chapter 6, following Enoch that's raptured in chapter 5. And then the first verse, we see Noah, come thou, all thy house, into the ark. For thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Notice generation. What do we think of Israel? The last generation. The fig tree. But I don't want to get sidetracked. So now let's go to the book of Revelations. I want to show you where I'm going with this. We see the letters to the 7 churches, right? In chapters 2 and 3. We go all the way down here. It's like the first 4 letters. We have a 23rd verse. We go to the 3rd chapter. And it ends with the lukewarm church, the Laodicean church age, the last church age, which we are currently in. And it goes all the way up to 22. Even if you notice, let me open up another one. Even if you notice in Genesis 6:22, look what it says. It says, take thou unto thee all the food that, this is in Genesis chapter 6. He's talking to Noah here. And take thou unto thee all the food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him. So did he. I thought this was interesting, because look how chapter 3:22 ends. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit, or let's read the last 2 verses. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Noah did all that was right. To him that overcometh. See what I'm saying here? Stops at 22. Now look at the next verse. And after this I look, and behold, the door was opened in heaven. The first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. See that? Noah is told to come into the ark. The Apostle John is told to come up hither, and I will show you things which must be hereafter. Then comes the wrath of God. Noah goes into the ark, verse 1. After that, the 23rd verse is missing for the first time in the book of Genesis. In here, we see the last letter to the church, the Laodicean church, and it stops in verse 22. And then the next verse says this. It sounds so familiar to that Genesis and to Noah. Noah is a type of the Jewish nation and those tribulation saints that are saved out of that tribulation period. Those remnant of Jews that will repent after the witnessing of the 2 witnesses. This is a picture of the rapture. I thought it was very, very interesting how God did this. And if you go back to the book of Genesis, we see Not only this verse, and Noah said unto him, Come thou into thy ark, for I found thee righteous before this generation. And then if you look at the last verse, or wait, 23rd verse, I mean, again, now we see a 23rd verse again. Every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both men and cattle and creeping things, and the fowl of heaven, and there were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Look at that. The 23 and 24 again. The 23, you see, escaped. Noah remained alive. Noah made it out. He escaped. 24, but the other, there's the wrath of God, the judgment. The 23 and the 24. Amazing how God does that. So I wanted to show you that. I thought that was very interesting, but that's not the end of my Bible study because I want to revisit the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and this reason. It's very interesting when you parallel. Did you know that there is also a Sodom and Gomorrah, the Jewish version? There is a story that parallels this story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and this time it's the nation of Israel. What's interesting is both of them take place in chapter 19. 19 is the number of separation. The Genesis 19 is obviously before the nation of Israel, and it has to do with Lot. The other one is in the book of Judges, the 7th book in the Bible. Very interesting. The 7th book in the Bible. When was Noah told to go in the ark? Chapter 7. You're going to see where I'm going with this. Before the nation of Israel, Genesis 19, and then the nation of Israel. These stories are almost identical. I'm going to look at them, and I'm going to compare them, and we're going to look at all the similarities, and then we're going to look at the difference in the two. Why one is a picture of the church, and one is a picture of the tribulation period in the nation of Israel. So let's look at Lot. It's going to read verses 1 through 3, chapter 19 in the book of Genesis. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we shall abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and they did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Okay, stop right there. Notice Lot, he seems to know the two angels that came to Sodom. He seems to recognize that they are righteous men and that they are sent from God. How much he knows? Does he know that they are actually angels? I don't know. But it seems to me that he knows these are righteous men sent from God. He seems to know. He almost seems to know their purpose, why they're there, which is to judge the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, if we look at verse 4, it says, But before they laid down, the men of the city, even men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. Notice it's all the people, old and young. There's a verse I found, I didn't look it up, I don't think we need to. But one thing it says about Sodom and Gomorrah in this verse that I'm talking about is that Sodom and Gomorrah did not hide their sin. They were so in your face about the sin, they did it in the open. But not only did they do their sin in the open, but they did not hide their sin from their children. They even involved their children in their sins. What are we seeing nowadays? Have you seen some of the filth that they're putting in the children's books? Have you seen some of these parents at these school board meetings and the books they're bringing in and reading? I don't know if you've seen that stuff. I am so shocked at what they're putting in the books, in the children's books. Adult contact. They are perverting the children, sexualizing the children. It is, never thought I would see this. And everybody gets mad at the school boards, and rightfully so, but nobody asks the question, who's printing these books? Who's printing the books? Where are the books coming from? But anyway, Sodom and Gomorrah did not hide their sin. And it says all the people came. So this city was in a mess. Then we look at verse 5. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. They want to get to know them. This is sexual in nature. You can tell by Lot's response. Here, let's read it in verses 6 and 7. And Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. See, when they say we want to get to know them, it is a sexual innuendo that they are implying. And I don't think they're asking for their consent. Verse 8, we see, behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they unto the shadow of my roof. So Lot offers these wicked men these daughters. He kind of feels responsible for these 2 angels. He is really concerned about trying to protect them. And then we see in verses 10 and 11, let's read those. But the men put forth their hand, and they pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. So the 2 angels saved Lot and his family here. Verses 12 through 14, let's read these. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides the son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters? And whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. Okay, so it's interesting in verses 12 through 14, Lot is given a chance to go out and save the rest of his family. But it's interesting as he thinks about his son-in-laws. He goes to witness to his 2 son-in-laws and to warn them of what's coming and try to save them and get them to come out with him. But they thought he was joking, kind of like today. Try to witness and tell people, oh, we're in the last, and they're indifferent. They have a lack of concern. They have a lack of fear of God. They don't know the Bible. They don't understand the times they're living in. They do not understand. They look at us like we're joking. These verses, boy, they ring true today, don't they? And then if we jump down to verse 22, it says, haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. So the angels tell Lot that they cannot bring judgment upon the city until Lot escapes. Look at verse 23. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. And then we see verse 24, fire and brimstone. Look, verse 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. We see the escape in 23 and we see wrath in 24. Just like what is about ready to happen. We're about ready to be pulled out, and God's wrath is about ready to be poured out. You don't want to be here in 2024. Very interesting. So now I want to look at the Jewish version of Sodom and Gomorrah. There is a Jewish version. Both chapter 19. Remember, I've mentioned this in my Bible studies before. The 19 has to do with separation. We see the marriage supper of the Lamb in chapter 19 in the book of Revelations. After God has separated all his people from this earth, all those who died in the tribulation period who have died, we've already been taken out before the judgment even starts. And then the tribulation saints, then I believe the marriage supper of the Lamb is declared. Jesus comes back from a wedding. Remember, that's in Luke. So we're going to look at Judges chapter 19, and we're going to look at this story. Read verses 1 and 2, the Jewish version of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. And his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house, to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. Okay, few things I took note of. There's no king in Israel at this time. Just like now, there's no king. Netanyahu is not the king of Israel. There is no king. There is no priest. There is no sacrifice. No king in Israel. And his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house, to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. 4 whole months. Makes me think of the feast days, and I'll tell you why. The first feast days, that have all been accomplished, the last one is Pentecost. These are called the spring feast days. At least we call them that because they coincide with our spring. The first day in the calendar year for the nation of Israel was our beginning of spring. It's what they have 2 seasons, summer, winter. The last of the spring feast days was Pentecost, and it happened in the 3rd month. Feast of Blowing in Trumpets happens in the 7th month, first day. What is that? 4 months. Do you see that? 4 months. That is the time of the church era. 4 months. That time between those prophetic feast days is the church era, the age of grace, salvation by grace through faith, not of works. Okay, so we see there's no king. He's going to get his concubine. He took a concubine, and she played the whore against him. She went into her father's house in Bethlehem, Judah. So he's going to get his concubine. Look at verses 10 through 12. The concubine plays the whore, and she's been away from him for 4 months. That's what I believe I just shared with you what I believe that 4 months is symbolic of. Now if we go to verses 10 through 12, let's read them. But the man would not tarry that night, but he rose up and departed, and came over against Jebus, which is Jerusalem, And there were with him 2 asses saddled. His concubine also was with him. And when they were by Jebus, the day was far spent. And the servant said unto his master, Come, I pray thee, and let us turn into the city of the Jebusites, and lodge in it. And his master said unto him, We will not turn aside hither into the city of a stranger, that is not of the children of Israel. We shall pass over to Gibeah. Think how sad it is that he would not turn this to a city of a stranger, but he wanted to get to a city and reside in a city that was owned and by the children of Israel with his brethren. Boy, he doesn't know what awaits him. How sad. He skips over the city of a stranger to get to the children of Israel where they reside, and he wants to lodge with his brethren. I want to jump down. Let's read verses 15 through 18. And they turned aside thither, go in and lodge in Gibeah. And he went in, he sat him down in the street of the city. And there was no man that took them into his house to lodging. And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at even, which was also of Mount Ephraim. He sojourned in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjamites. I'm sorry. And when he had lifted up his eyes, he saw a wayfaring man in the street of the city. And the old man said, Whither goest thou? And whence comest thou? And he said unto him, We are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, toward the side of Mount Ephraim. From thence am I. And I went to Bethlehem, Judah, but I am now going to the house of the Lord. And there is no man that receiveth me into the house, to his house. Notice he's going to the house of the Lord. Look, he won't. He wants to find a place where he can reside with his brethren of the nation of Israel. And then he's on his way to the house of the Lord. How sad is this? What befalls this man? His intentions are good. He's retrieved his concubine who played the harlot. Now he's trying to do the right thing here. We look at verses 19 through 21. Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me, and for thy handmaid and for thy young man, which is with thy servants. There is no want of anything. And the old man said, Peace be with thee, howsoever, let all thy wants lie upon me, only lodge not in the street. So he brought them into his house and gave provender unto the asses, and they washed their feet and did eat and drink. See where this has sounded so much like Sodom and Gomorrah. The man wants to abide in the street, but the old man says no. So similar to the 2 angels that went to Sodom and Gomorrah to judge it. They wanted to abide in the street, but Lot was like, no. Lot knew the trouble. Lot knew how wicked and evil this city was. The men of the city were the people of the city, and he pleaded with them to stay with him. And the old man, he sounds a lot like Lot. He has mercy. He sees these are good people, and he wants to help them. He doesn't want them to be taken advantage of, or he just knows it's not good in that city. He knows the evil. Just like Lot knew the evil in the city, so does this man. And he pleads with them to come into his house, and he gets them to come into his house. And he washes their feet, and they eat and they drink. Then we go to verse 22. Now as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about, and beat the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring forth the man that came into the house, that we may know him. There's that phrase again, that has sexual innuendos it's implying sexual nature. And you know by the response of the old man, just like the response of Lot. See how the sons of they compassed the house round about, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. They beat at the door, and they said, "Bring forth the man that we may know him." Now we'll see in verse 23. The old man's response tells you exactly that when they say, "Meet the man, we may know him," it is evil in nature. And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them, and he said unto them, "Nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into my house, do not this folly." He feels responsible for this man just like Lot did the two angels. And he says, "Do not so wickedly." Verse 24. The old man, let's see what the verse 24, let's read verse 24. "Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But this man do not so vile a thing." The old man offers his daughter and the maiden of the man, the concubine. The man offers his daughter and he offers the concubine, the man's concubine, to these wicked men of Belial to appease them. These men of Belial end up taking the man's concubine. Let's read this. Read how the story ends. We're going to do a little bit of reading here, verses 25 through 30. "But the men would not hearken to him. So the men took his concubine and brought her forth unto them. And they knew her and abused her all the night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day and fell down at the door of the man's house where her Lord was, till it was light. And her Lord rose up in the morning, opened the doors of the house. He went out to go his way, and behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house. Her hands were upon the threshold. And he said unto her, Up, and let us be going. But none answered. Then the man took her upon an ass, and the man rose up and gat him unto his place. And when he was come into his house, he took a knife and laid hold on his concubine, and divided her, together with her bones, in 12 pieces, and sent her into all the coasts of Israel. And it was so, that all that saw it said, There was no such deed done, nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt until this day. Consider it, take advice, and speak your minds." Very interesting. Last verse there. Consider it, take advice, speak your minds. Think about these last days, how we need to speak our minds. They're trying to put the duct tape over our mouths, but we need to speak our minds. But I want to talk about now the two differences between Sodom. We've seen the similarities. I've mentioned the similarities as we're going through the story. But now what are the differences? The difference is Lot, or this man, was not a Jew. The two angels that came into the city were sent of the Lord, obviously. But this man's a Jew, a Jewish man. One of the big differences is there is no escape for the old man. Remember, the old man was similar to Lot. There was no escape. Zoar. The Levite, his concubine, we see what happened to her. Brutal, brutal death. Horrible what happened to her. Lot's daughters escaped. There was an escape for Lot and his family, but not for this Levite. Although he does make it, he lives through it, like a remnant of Jews will. But his concubine didn't. You could also look at it this way: she played the harlot. I mean, she went after another. The people will not escape the tribulation period are the ones who take the mark of the beast, if you look at it that way. Lot was also given a chance to save his family, and he was told by the two angels, he says, if you have anybody else you know, if there's any other Christians, go get them, because we're about ready to. Lot thinks of his two sons-in-laws, and when he goes to try and witness to them, they thought he was mocking. That is, it's like saying they thought he was joking. Kind of like what we get nowadays. When you try to warn somebody about the last days, they mock. They just they can't see it. They're spiritually blind. People are about as spiritual as a rock if you don't see that we're living in these last days. Lot escaped. Lot was not a Jew. There was no escape for these Jews. They had to endure through it. The Levite had to make it out. His concubine didn't. Remember, she played the harlot. Thought this was an interesting Bible study. As I was studying this morning, trying to think of what kind of video I wanted to make. I'm trying to make as many as I can in these last days. And I'm in prayer, and this is where God led me today. And I got excited. I liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Keep a lookout, trying to be putting more out before the rapture. So here we go. Godspeed, God bless, and it's time to get excited and look for our Lord.